we go. Hello, everybody, and welcome. So glad to have you all in with us today. As you all see, Angelique is not here with us. An amazing event this weekend, and they are kind of recouping from that weekend. So I'm sure we'll hear about it all next week, which I'm excited for. So today we're going to kind of jump in. We have Rain Warfield with us here today, and she is a return guest. She's doing some wonderful things, and we'll bring her back in to catch up, see how life is going, and what amazing stories there are to tell since she's been back. And if you don't know who Fempreneur True Confessions is, me and Angelique are both agency owners, pretty much competition in the world of business, but didn't want to compete. I'm not huge in that. So we found a way of collaborating, even in the world that we're in, realizing that that is the new way of business, that collaboration and non-competition and helping and serving and working with other businesses and others was really just a much better feel for business. And we needed support. And how do you get support? Best way is from somebody who probably has a business similar to yours, but it can get a little squirrely. So we just found a way that we wanted to work together and to bring the competition out of it. And that is what we are attempting and working with in the last 3 years, is to just show that, to make it normal or normalize it so that people that don't want to be in that competitive spirit but want to be more collaborative, there's a system there for it. There's a way to do that and really be honest and authentic in it. So that is what Fempreneur True Confessions is. And I do want to introduce ours formally. Um, so Rain here, she knows that we are spiritual beings having a human experience, and she believes our purpose is to love, spread truth, walk the light, and evolve together. She is committed to the pillars of environment, wildlife, and humanity, all while serving through the love of God. All of Rain's work is rooted in integrating our whole selves, returning to our internal wisdom, heart led service, and faithful surrender. She is here to fulfill her soul's purpose and to support all others in doing the same. Welcome.
Thank you. I love hearing that from a new version of me because I wrote it sometime last year and I was curious. I was like, I wonder what's changed. And it's pretty on par.
Oh, good, good. Sometimes there's big changes, sometimes little ones. Um, but even from your first episode with us, you've been pretty solid in who you are and where you're going. I think you're pretty clear on what like what you see for yourself, and what you're doing.
Yeah.
And I think that's pretty wonderful. We were talking in the green room about because we talk about balance and mindset, there's a lot of that, and we're kind of moving away from that in a lot of ways and more embodiment. Or I am, as a business, as a person, as just life in general. And we were talking about the hippie Jewish girl thing, and I was like, reading her bio earlier made me feel that same way, like, oh, she could be family, and I was just thought it was the cutest thing. Um, but that embodiment of your business, who you are, what you are doing, you are really bringing that all into full circle work together kind of thing. And I would love to hear what you've been up to and what's going on. So
Yeah, definitely. First, I want to say I love when we can feel that connection and remembrance of being family because we really all are when we're looking at the soul level, and it's easy to forget in this world. So I love that. Thank you for bringing it up. And from hearing my own bio and hearing it from where I am now, it's interesting because so much has changed in my life in the last year or so. And to hear how my center has remained rooted and stable feels really good, because in the past when things around me would change, I would change a lot, and also we're supposed to change, so that's fine. And it feels really powerful to be at such a centered place. And that's really what this last year has been for me, is I've done a lot of solitude work. After, I think I talked about this in the last episode, I had a crazy cult situation, and really everything in my life blew up, shattered, and dissolved. All of my beliefs, all of the work I was doing, I stopped everything. And for the majority of a year, I went into solitude to rebuild from my core and to grow roots that I never had, like proper, stable roots, and letting God, Goddess, or the higher wisdom of source in ourselves lead the way.
Mhm.
So, to do that, to really listen there, I let go of a lot of the noise. So, I stopped doing my business. I uh, took a break from a lot of relationships. I stopped a lot of activities I was doing and stopped going external, like physically going external. And from that, I see and can look back and see even more how those roots really have sunken in. And things have still changed. Like I'm in Chicago now. So I went from living on 70 acres to now in the third biggest city in the country. Blew my mind, and it's amazing. And I'm growing roots here. And because I have this strong core, I'm able to interact with all the change in the world in such a more stabilized way. Like stability has been a big word of the last year and a half in this process. And now, in the past couple of months, I've been having big breakthroughs and calls to serve with very clear offers, which have been very wild, because in the past I was always trying to have these very clear offers, but I didn't have the roots to get that clarity. And now that I have the roots, I have clear offers coming up. I have more aligned relationships being established. I have depth that just keeps deepening more and more. And it is blowing my mind and really bringing me into more humility. And it all goes back to having those roots and that core and that stability. So, yeah, it's crazy and it's beautiful, because someone said to me the other week, when we look at the trees with their roots, it doesn't matter if the winds come, they stay rooted. It doesn't matter if they lose an entire branch, they stay rooted. It doesn't matter if someone came and chopped off half the tree, it's still rooted. So, really looking at everything and seeing how, when we have that center and have it in the right place, have a foundation with the right materials and the right values, it will take
Yeah,
us through anything and everything that comes up.
absolutely. I love that. Because I think we forget about that. Like, sure, things aren't always easy on the trees, but they do stay rooted. Like, you definitely that feel of that and that strength in that, because it can be very difficult to find that alignment, find that center. And you talked about how kind of an isolation point, like bringing yourself in, like you don't need to be external. I think a lot of our audience have gone through that in the last few years at some point. I know mine has been extended, but I love the fact that I was a loner growing up, that I've always been okay with being the loner. I've never really gotten to a point where fitting in was something that was big for me. um but in saying that, and when people were isolating, everybody's like, well, you're isolating and you don't want to be around people and all this is happening. People saw it as depression, as problems. They saw it as that there's an issue or something's happening. And I'm like, no. It was so hard to explain that, no, I'm not depressed. I'm absolutely not depressed. Everything is fine. I just don't feel like I'm working through something. I'm dealing with stuff. And then it's, oh, you're in that loner stage. You don't want to be involved or whatever. And I always kid that I'm not a great peopler. I don't people well. I animal well. I don't people well. So it's, I will know your dog's name and their personality in my neighborhood before I'll ever know who you are. I probably won't even recognize you in public, and that's terrible. Um, but I don't people well. And I recognized that. So I stayed isolated. I was okay with that. And then recently was like, okay, you need to get back out in society. It's okay that you're a little off and a little weird, and you've always embraced that. Um, but it's very interesting because if you're not embracing it, if you're not okay with the isolation, if you're somebody who needs people, that can be a very devastating place to be. I don't quite understand that. Like, I love it. But I've seen several of my friends and family and people around me really, really suffer. And then it does hit like a depressive state. So I'm curious for you, was it like a breath of fresh air that you could isolate, it was fine, or was it that you were fighting against it a little bit maybe?
I have also always been one who has peace in solitude. It's like I don't really feel lonely. I mean, it's a natural thing. Sometimes we can feel lonely. I guess really I've felt more lonely in spaces with others.
Hmm.
When I'm in my solitude, I feel so connected to myself, even through the hard times, connected to the source, whatever it may be, especially
Hmm.
having grown up in nature and with animals. I always had animals around. I'm definitely an animaler for sure. It's part of my purpose on this planet. Um, so, yeah, I've always been okay with that. And that's been hard for people to understand of like, why so much isolation or don't you need this? I'm like, I truly wonder in some lifetime how long I could go without seeing people and be at peace. Like I feel like I could stretch it a pretty long time. That's not necessarily my goal at this point. And because I live my life now after last year's cult situation, letting that source lead, I've been led to Chicago. I would have never chosen that on my own. Like it's a huge city, and I walk out my door and there's people everywhere. There's also dogs everywhere. So now I get to serve the dogs and the animals with the people. And God, Goddess was bringing me out of this isolation and being like, it's time for you to now connect to the people because the things that I need to do, at least in this season of my life and the ways that I'm meant to serve, involve more interaction with others and not just through a screen. Because I was also doing that for a while of being in my peace and solitude in nature and connecting to others through screens and Zoom and whatnot.
Yeah.
And now I'm placed in the center of it where it's like, here's this opportunity and I get to see it from a new perspective because it was a surrendered move rather than me trying to force it or even me choosing it.
Hmm.
I surrendered to it and now I have this new lens that I've been given of look at all these people who have animals and I've had a pet care business and I see how I can do that again. Look at all these opportunities where you can serve in person. Look at how you can help people on the street rather than donate money through a link. And it's just been humbling me and blowing my mind because I still have the opportunity to be in solitude when I need to. Like we
Hmm.
still have our homes if we have the privilege and luck to have that. And we also have our internal world. So even if I'm surrounded by people having that strong root, again, I can go internally and be like, oh, this is all here. And so am I. When it's time, I can also go internal.
Yeah, absolutely. Took me much longer to realize that I didn't deal with people very well. Like, because growing up, we were all kind of thrown together. I was on stage for many years and performing, and so I just didn't notice. As a young child, I liked being by myself, and I was okay with that. But then I started in performing, and that was fun. Um, until it wasn't, and then I no longer did it. I definitely am that kind of person. So after about 25, 26, I was done with being anywhere in a spotlight. I definitely loved the idea of being behind the scenes, and I still love that. um and the other sides of things, but performing and that kind of stuff wasn't my thing. When we were doing this podcast, it was taking forever for me to really kick myself in the butt and get things going. Um, and even networking and stuff like that, getting on cameras when I started this business, because I was like, ugh, I did not want to be doing this again. Like somebody else take the lead, So it's those kinds of things where I was forced back out of my comfort zone, at a stage in life where I was not ever thinking that was going to happen again. So it's somewhat a little bit of a temper tantrum in there where I don't want to, and then just kind of like you said, giving into it, surrendering, and it feels different when you finally just say, okay, maybe this is a good idea. And now through coaching and working with our embodiment coach and spiritual coaches and stuff, it definitely has shown me, oh good Lord, every time we get on here, it definitely has shown me that it's okay in balance, and that I get to choose, I get to be in control of it. There's no expectations. I'm not following somebody else's lead or rule with it, and that feels really good. Hey, no, come on, please. She wants to make an appearance. Come on.
She's
just gonna go.
Animals. Oh my gosh, she's so sweet.
This is a rescue. She was not planned, but never planned. So
They come to us. They're lovely. Yeah, I totally hear you with all that, and it's curious that push and pull of when we can be in that comfort and peace in the isolation, but sometimes we're meant to step out. And what I'm hearing is that difference between when you were younger and it was just expected, like you're just thrown together, or you do the things because your parents put you there, and we're young, we don't really know, we just do it. And a lot of humans are really good at masking too, so we can show up and play the parts, especially females. But then when we have enough time and growth and more solitude, or just time to reflect with ourselves, we realize like that's not actually where I'm called, or that's not actually what I feel I'm meant to do. And then from that point, we get to reintroduce ourselves to it, or we're led to it again in a completely new way, where, like you said, like there's no expectations and you get to lead that, and there's not someone else telling you and fitting you into it, and you can step in and go past the comfort zone, but also step back and honor who and how you are. And also with the feminine, it's a huge part of our essence with cyclical living, of the womb, and even women who don't have wombs or just have more feminine hormones, or even are just feminine identifying. The feminine essence at its core is cyclical. So having that time to go in and shed and hibernate, it's not how society is built. So it can be very confusing for most of the world, including women who are more in the societal thought work of how or why do you go and be in solitude? Why do you go away? Why not be social all the time? When really, if we all remembered, which it's happening collectively in the ways that it is, that rest and that internal practice is part of nature. I mean, we look at the seasons. There's winter for a reason. And for the masculine, it's needed too in different ways, because they have different hormones and chemicals that have their body on a more 24-hour energetic cycle, but they still need to winter and hibernate and have solitude in their own cycles.
Yeah. I think that I'm more coming into my like 50s, and and I'm in my Chiron return and loving that. But coming into that, I was more in that masculine. I had worked in juvenile services, in juvenile court and things like that in my first career. I worked in corporate in my second, and I was very much in the get shit done. It's always urgent. It was very high stress, high, agitation kind of roles for years. Um, and so it was, after in the last 5, 6 years where I started really getting more into the feminine side, and the balance between the two, and recognizing when I've gone way too far in one or the other, and that kind of thing, like really learning, I think that's where I bring balance in, is like, oh yeah, I'm a little bit too much this way or too much this way, what's going on, and recognizing, for me, it's awareness. I talk all the time with my coach about, uh, I don't feel much in my body. Like it was always kidded about that I'm not the sensitive one in the group. I'm the band-aid parent. Like, whatever, find a band-aid, or it doesn't really hurt. That parent. We were not Gen Xers. Were not super sensitive. So I giggle about that. And it's not that I wasn't. Of course I was, but we had a different way of doing things. So.
Right.
You don't recognize within your system what's happening. And so I'm learning to lean and work with more on the feminine side and really feel things and get out of my head, because my head is a great place for me. And I don't do a lot of negative talk anymore. It's a lot. It's a lot more rare now than it was a few years ago, where I've really worked through all of that and learned. But we talk about it all the time, of that feeling it in your system and learning that and being on that feminine side, which again can be very hard when you've been in the crux a lot of your life of the masculine, the get it done, the do. We got to stabilize. We got family running around, and life was lifing that way, in a very masculine way. And then now all of a sudden I'm like, oh, I want to go back to unicorns and butterflies and staring at the clouds, because I can literally stare at a wall or stare at the clouds and find pictures in the clouds. I could do that for life, and things like that. So it was, oh, wow, you went way over here and you got into, like I got to bring myself back a little bit. Like, we still got shit to do. So it was very funny learning that side of when things really started to fall more into place with the feminine side, and bringing that in and being like, okay, this is okay. You don't have to be in that your whole life, So definitely.
Yeah, and it is interesting to see how it's changed generationally, because I look at my maternal lineage and see that too, of how there wasn't as much of a collective choice the further we look back in time, especially for the women. It was like more of survival. You had to show up in that way. You had to, fend for yourself. And it's just the waves of how consciousness has changed, how the feminine and masculine energies have danced throughout the many years. And I feel that now, no matter what generation, there's a shift happening. So even if you were in that more masculine for most of your life, it's shifting for you. And for me, I was also in that masculine for most of my life, which was shorter life, but it's also shifting now. And so it's shifting now for many, regardless of the age. So it's very interesting to see that, and also to remember that we're going through it together. And there's this collective remembrance and awakening of the feminine and the rest. And that brings us back to Earth too. I mean, if we look at climate change and all these things, like the Earth is the mother, is the feminine, is angry, like the fires, and is crying with all the floods. Like, it's literally coming out through the collective mother, and bringing us back into this place where we have to remember, because it's threatening our entire existence of humanity. Like, look what all of us collectively for generations have done to the feminine, to the mother, by forgetting that and trying to be so productive or successful in this very mind-based way, this survival way. And now we get to remember that by protecting the earth and the mother also protects us externally and internally.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And you know what you say, I don't think, again, we don't think about the earth being ignorant. I'm like, it is, it's kind of fighting us back a bit. And I always, I put it in that, but it is definitely at a point where, again, balance, I think, we go back to that, or, I really, I play with the word balance.
Yeah.
But where you really do go back and forth, where there has to be that, um, more to the middle, the less to the extreme. Extreme is for very short spurts, for quick endeavors, and then back into something towards the middle. The ability to do that, and I think a lot of what goes on, just around the world and within the climate and just all the people and all the things, is the extreme side, where we're staying too long in that, not coming back into a, okay, there's a middle point that doesn't have to be right on. It doesn't have to be totally balanced, but that's where we find things can be solved and resolved, and brought back into a more, aligned world or state of being. So I think
Yeah.
we forget that a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the concept of the integration point that I look at with the integrated regenerative living, the work that I do in relation to that. It's integrating those extremes, because a lot of times the extremes repeat because we go there and then we're like, no, not that. And then we go here and we're like, no, not that. But when we're denying it, it naturally pulls us back. And so getting to that extreme, because the cycles, the spirals, it's natural. And then when we're there, integrating that into our center. And then we may end up on the other extreme, integrating that. So each time it doesn't have to pull us back as hard, because we're actually bringing it back into the center, which, full circle, what I was talking about at the beginning, how I've learned the entire last year and a half of my life has been all about the roots and the foundation, and integrating all of that into the center, because then, again, no matter how far something goes, you're always pulled back, and in an organic way, where you don't have to try and come back. But when you're rooted, it just brings you back. Like, the trees aren't like, oh, the wind blew me, I'm going to try and pull myself back. They just have the roots there. So when we focus that energy on growing those roots and building that foundation, the process will just naturally bring us in, where those intensities slowly integrate into more of a stability.
Love it. Love it. Oh. All right. So I do want to give you an opportunity. Let us know, like, what are you doing right now? What do you, um, obviously a little bit of promotion, and what you've got really truly going on. The move to Chicago, that's huge. That's so amazing. And I love that. We moved to Oklahoma 7 years ago, and that was rough for a while because I had a teenager. Um, but it now, as we've settled in, I'm really excited to see what's going to happen here. So I'd love to hear about the Chicago move a little bit too, a little bit more too.
Yeah, so my partner is from this area, and him and I went through this cult situation together last year, and then we split up, and we thought we'd never see each other again. We thought it was the end, just because the entire situation was so deeply shattering that we both let go of everything, including our relationship. And then we're focusing on ourselves. We weren't in contact. And then God's Spirit brought us back together randomly in a random state in West Virginia. And it was just clear union of, like, you're meant to be together. Like, you went through that, and now you're back together, and this is where you're meant to be. Not in West Virginia, but together. So I came and visited. I visited him this summer in the suburbs of Chicago, and then we were told to stay here. So it happened so synchronistically, so wild. We got an apartment within like 48 hours, which is very unusual, especially in this area. Neither of us have ever officially rented before, and we've heard horror stories of how long it can take and this and that, and it happened so quickly. It was the best one that was on the market. I researched so many. It was the top one we wanted and just fit all of our requests.
Oh,
And we moved in, we're settling here, growing the roots in that geographical space, and then building everything else from there. So, as I said, I've now received so much clarity on the offers that I meant to share in these upcoming seasons. I'm doing a lot of movement based work. So, throughout my solitude and nature for most of my life, I've always moved. I've always uh, had movement practices, and they've been very internal and personalized. And now, because everything that I can think of is around, it's a huge city. I'm doing dance classes, I'm doing circus aerial silks classes, I'm doing different martial arts and qigong and energy work with community and in spaces where there's accountability and reflection and support from people who have invested their lives into these practices. So that's been keeping me somatically moving, which I
yeah.
was told when I came to Chicago that my entire Chicago time is meant to focus on physical health and physical movement. And as long as I'm tuned in there, everything else will keep moving. And so that's what I've done. I've made that my priority, and I see how it's changing everything. Because
Yeah.
even at times where I mentally feel like I want to slow down or rest or hibernate or this and that, I have these accountabilities for physical movement, and then it just reactivates my life force and my motivation. I'm like, oh, I can just keep going now. So
Yeah.
that's been awesome. Uh,
Oh,
I'm spending the winter in Japan, which is quite silly and ironic.
no,
It's
that's
rooted down
beautiful.
here, and now it's like, okay, you've rooted, now leave for multiple months. And it's like, okay, we'll see what happens. So I'm very excited about that. It's my first time internationally traveling in a couple years, which I've known for those years. I was like, once I root down, I know I'm going to leave. And here it is. So I'll be able to go immerse there for a few months and then come back to my roots. Like I'll have this landing ground to come back to. So
Yeah. I love that. I have a client right now doing a retreat in Tokyo.
mm,
So it's been a great place to be, and eventually I'm sure we will make our way. I Because I don't people well, I don't travel well, and the idea of being out of the house or away from my home for longer than 4 or 5 days is it makes me itch. See, I immediately started to itch. But to go international, you really do want that time because apparently jet lag is a few days of recovery. So I was like, dang, we'll see about the international travel only because I'm a wuss. But or maybe in our own time zones or whatever something. But yeah, it was a bucket list thing until I started realizing how much time I would really need to be away. So yeah, that's gonna take a lot of convincing.
yeah. Yeah, it's a big investment, especially for me. I value immersion. So I was like, if I'm flying halfway across the globe, I got to be there for a couple months. Like, I want to learn the language too, to some extent. So the longer I can stay in one trip, the more I can actually get out of it and learn that space and experience the depths of an entirely new culture versus just quick trip.
Yeah,
Okay, I'm home. And then it's like, wait,
yeah,
does that even happen?
exactly. I love it. Oh, wonderful. All right. We're getting close to wrap up. I do want to give you an opportunity. If there was anything you want to do, a call to action, if you wanted to set up a meeting with any of our listeners, what would you like them to do? Because I would love for them to get in contact with you. So, and we'll put all links and everything in show notes for everybody to be able to reach her. But I would like give you again the opportunity to.
Yeah. Thank you for that. So I've been off social media for almost a year, which has been wild because that was the core of a lot of my work and service and expression and business. So I've been learning new dimensions of it through that pause. Um, so right now, with the clarity of my new offers, I'm helping leaders, creatives, healers, and basically anyone who's playing a part in the revolution build systems, so regenerative based systems inspired by the systems of nature that allow their business to work, their company, their services to work beyond their presence. So their company is not dependent on their presence. One, for the cycles of life, if they're not feeling well, their business will continue to serve. They can visit family and come back and have things booked. They can go to Japan for a couple months and come back and have sales that have continued throughout that time. But also, really, for the regenerative element of when we leave this earth, what's our legacy? And is it built on that foundation? Does it have roots that it will continue to grow and serve when we truly step away? And with the whole integrated regenerative living and that perspective and lens of service, it's focusing on building something for 7 generations from now. So looking at our children's children's children and how can we build something now that will be able to serve them and that will be able to grow and adapt, but also have the structure to last that long through all the change rather than the next 7 years or even 70 years, which I've seen a lot in the business industries, especially in the more like solopreneur and entrepreneur space of like doing things very quickly, which sometimes it works, but sometimes it falls just as quick. So my whole focus is helping those leaders build foundations so their legacy can serve beyond them. So right now I have a Q4 systems audit that I've been doing live with people. So that's available for the next about 2 months. So that'll be more of a seasonal thing and may evolve. But right now it's available. It's a live call. I can share the link to that. And then I'm doing more one-on-one work where I'm building out actual ecosystems for people and their companies that act as a central hub that organizes everything that they need. Their different platforms, their different files, their project management, all their operations, and bringing it all into one space so that there's coherency, there's clarity, there's simplicity. And it also bridges structure with design because I'm a very visual person and a lot of humans in this world are. So it has branding, it has different elements. My ecosystem is covered in nature pictures and different faith-based quotes. And so you go into a place that has your structure and your systems while also having something that's very supportive and feels spacious and nourishing to the heart too. So it's bridging those two elements. So I've been doing builds of that more one-on-one and different levels depending on how much support people need. So can share those links too. And then overall, my plan is to transition, and I'm planting seeds of doing more email-based and non-social media-based community. So I have a Patreon that I'm revamping right now to be able to bring the community out of the social media so that if they want to learn about integrated regenerative living and sacred systems and these elements that I'm working on, they can access that directly without all the noise of whatever else pops up on their feed that they can't control. So I can share the link to email list and Patreon. And yeah, I'd love to support the people, especially the feminine leaders where this is really needed, and the world needs the feminine leaders to be able to step up and have that structure to support for lifetimes to come.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh, I love that. And Angelique and I being agency owners, I'm all for it. Like structure, yay, that's that, That's the other side of my brain. But it's amazing that you're offering that up and that you're clear on what you're doing because it's so needed. So I am very appreciative of that. And how wonderful. Um, uh-oh, I
And I will
glitched.
say my social media is Our Earth Warrior if anyone does want to find it. It's still there. It may have a revamp too. I've surrendered it, so I don't know the timeline of it,
Mhm.
but it's there for now. Our Earth Warrior.
Perfect. And we will also have it in the show notes. So everywhere that you watch um, the podcast, if you are on social media, Spotify and Apple and other places. So if you don't want to get on social media, I think all of our social media is work, and I do not like social media. So if things are put out there on my social media because Angelique has gone in, or one of the VAs or the interns or somebody thought, oh look, let's just do this. It's rare that I think to kind of go in and stuff. I love the fact that you're talking about it. You can pull it somewhere else. You don't have to be on social media. I have several clients that are trying to find ways off of social media and still be able to market and run a business and get the sales and do the things. So, look, again, to our audience, if you are like me in social media at first, it's options. People are doing the thing and they're doing what they want to do for their business without having to be on social media. So, there are ways. And yeah, I love that. I'm always pushing to come off social media.
Yeah, it's definitely possible. And the more we all invest in it individually, the more we'll build those new systems that aren't dependent on the corporate world systems.
Yeah, exactly. I love that. Wonderful. All right, everybody, I am going to wrap it up. I just want to remind you all that we do have the membership and sponsorships and different things going on. Things are growing, and I know like last year we were coming into it, we've been working through things. So this is a definite passion project for me and Angelique, and we do both have our own businesses. So there are times where we have the best laid plans, but our actual businesses that we need to get out and the clients and stuff. So if you have been trying to reach out to us, if you have any questions or anything else going on, definitely know we see you. We are working through it, and all of this stuff will be getting going so that we can get everybody all signed up. So definitely look for us for our membership, sponsorships, wherever you listen to the podcast. And we look forward to seeing you again soon. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.